Hi, this is Pam, Flower Patch Farmhouse, and today I'm going to show you this tropical beach painting. Like I promised last time I did just the palm trees, and before that I had a simple beach scene that you could put together yourself, but we'll do it together in this painting tutorial, and I'll include the clouds. These are all real simple elements. You should be able to get right the first time, or at least close, and with no problem. I will adjust the beach line here because it's just too even. It's not, doesn't have enough interest. I will attempt to show you, I'm not very good at these, that's why I'm only going to attempt to show you how to do these little whitewater parts. I'm still perfecting that. So we will get started here. First, I'm going to show you that I'm doing it on, instead of on a larger piece that was 11 by 14, I think, on the paper, and this is 12 by 12. So we're going to adjust for the width difference. I am going to use these colors. This is a professional acrylics or artist quality acrylics here that I mixed up a sand color, which is yellow ochre or yellow oxide, raw umber, and burnt umber mixed with white, and I just mix, it's mostly white, a little bit more yellow oxide or almost matching amount, just a touch of raw sienna and a touch of burnt umber. Remember, with artist acrylics, the darker color a lot of times will try to overpower all the other colors, so start with the tiniest bit, mix it in, and then add more as needed, but be really careful with it. These are folk art, plaid folk art acrylics, craft acrylics in the bottle. Let me show you this one here. And this is True Blue. This is Jamaica Sea, I do believe. And this one is Calypso Sky. And this is a light gray. Yeah, it's just light gray. And this is going to be the base of the clouds. If you wanted to mix a gray, you would use white and a touch of black, and add what other color. Sometimes it looks good when it's neutralized with like a yellow oxide or something. Okay, let's get started. We are going to begin with the sky. So let's get a larger sized brush. A lot of times I like to use these large brushes to get the coverage and fast, because you want it all streaky. But you can use a 3/4 inch brush if you want, but I'm all for speed. I'm glancing around. Okay, to let it spread fast and easy, I'm going to spritz my canvas. This is just a spray bottle, and I'm going to put on there. Hopefully I didn't get too much, and I can't really see it in my, oh, I don't have any white. I need white on my palette. And where is my white? Well, I'll use this one. Sorry, forgot the white. I'm trying to get it out here. Put it on my palette. Have a good amount there. And I'm going to go into, I'm going to load up my brush with the white, dab it into white, and I'm going to touch in some blue and just kind of mix it on my palette. And if I want just a touch of the Jamaica Sky in there too. I don't want to over blend it because I want it to create the striations on my palette. And you'll see how this goes on. Now with the sky, I want to keep going back and forth and just work in that sky color. Now, a lot of times I would lift up and do the edges as well, but I'm not going to do that right now. Try not to overwork it. I go back into on my palette, mix a little bit more white. Now I want to go down maybe a third. So third, then I'll have this ocean, and then, so I think that's far enough for my sky. As you see how it's much wider over there? That's great. We like that. We like the different colors in there. If you wanted to add a little more of the Jamaica Sky, which is almost a light teal, you can just kind of come in and add a little bit of that. I need to hold this just to give it a little more interest. Now we're going to go down here and do the ocean. I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm just going to add more of the True Blue and get it on my brush. And I'm kind of guesstimating on what is a third. And I'm kind of doing this at an odd angle so I'm not in the camera way. So I'm just going to add the darker blue. Same thing, don't worry, you want the streaks of color. And if you want to make it give a more tropical feel for the water, then I'm going, right now I'm putting my brush, I haven't rinsed my brush, it's still got the dark blue on it and white, and I'm going into the Jamaica, or the Calypso Sky, that's what I am. And I'm just adding that to the water. Get it on the, I didn't spray this down here, so it's not going on quite as smoothly. But just work it on there. If you overblend it, then you can let it dry and do it again. But you just want it to come down. Let's see, where do I want the shoreline? I might have wanted to come down more with my sky, because this is, well, let's see. I know I'm guesstimating here. Well, maybe that'll work just fine. More ocean than sky. Before I think I had more sky than ocean. But it will all work in the long run. Okay, come along here. I'm really working it into the canvas there. These more inexpensive canvases from Michael's or other hobby stores, they are really thirsty. A lot of times I pre-gesso them. It just helps it not to just suck up the paint so much. Now that's basically the ocean. I want mine to have a little touch more tropical feel, so I'm going to add just some more of the Calypso Sky on my brush. Now be careful, if it has started to dry, your paint will start to lift, so try to work as fast as you can. Get those colors in there. And that works. I might come down just a little further. Maybe I'll do more of the, you know how paint the ocean, sometimes as it gets closer to the shore, it lightens up, and I'm lightening it with that Calypso Sky so it has that tropical color. Okay, I think that is good enough. So let's see, that we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back in and put on the sand. I'm just going to add some darker blue streaks back here. Blend them across. You can play with it. Now we're going to go into the clouds. This is dry. I'm going to use this scruffy brush. This is a 3/4 inch plaid 1-stroke scruffy brush, and I'm going to double load it. This is dry, so you want them as dry as possible, and that way you get the best finish. And so I'm going to show you how I double load. I kind of got blue all the way around that white, which I really didn't mean to, so I'm getting some on that side, and I'm taking some gray on the other, and I'm going to pounce it into the brush until I get a good blend. I want mostly white on top, a little bit of the gray. I'm filling that brush. As I pounce it, it's working it. I'm trying to be really careful not to get that blue. I really should put me some more white down, a clean pile of white, and I will do that right now. And then I don't have to worry about messing it up with the blue, though the blue won't be a killer. It can still work, but okay, so I've got mostly white, a little bit of gray on the other side, and I'm going to kind of just pounce. Now most clouds aren't straight up and down, at least these type, and I'm going to leave them kind of where some of the blue sky shows through. I reload, pounce it on my palette until I like the amount of paint, and then I'm going to come back and just pounce like that, and then a little bit extra, I tilt it back so the gray is predominant, and you see how you have the gray in there, and it shows the base of the cloud. Make sure I'm getting on the right ends. Now I'll leave that for now, and I'll come along over here and do something similar. Don't make your clouds to look the same. Kind of play around with them as far as shapes. And then come along the bottom there, flatten the bottom. And then one like right down here. Now we don't go, as I always tell you, for precise. We go for an image. Your eye will always turn it into what it thinks it is. So I'm going to go make this one a little bit puffier up here. Give it a little more round shape. That's mostly white on it now, instead of these. Let's see, this one too. We'll make this a little puffier, build up here. Now when we do the palm trees, they're going to kind of come up in here, so we just want the impression of a cloud back there. Alrighty, so there are our clouds. Nothing too difficult. I'm rinsing out my brush because I'm going to use the same brush to come in and do the shoreline. Now I'm drying it out as thoroughly as I can on my rag. It's just an old t-shirt that I use as a rag, and it absorbs it very well out of the brush, so it's barely even damp. Now I'm going to go into the color that I mixed. It's gotten pretty dry from just sitting here while we were doing the other stuff, and I'll go into the white a little bit and blend that into my brush, and then maybe some of the parchment to give it a little contrast. So got mostly those two colors, and I'm just going to kind of guess at a shoreline, have it be up further here and come down. I'm going to have to mix more of my color. But you just tap it in. Now if you wanted to start with brushing on some and then come in and tap, that's good too. So I'm going to come in here with my mix and just fill it in, because that tapping can take a while. A lot of times I will use the bigger brush. This is a 3/4 inch brush. A lot of times I will use that big 2-inch brush that I did the sky and ocean with. Okay, so there we have a basic shoreline. And then we come back with the scruffy and we add it to give it texture the other way. Let's see, I need to mix up some more of the sand color, so I'm going to mix it on the fly here. On my palette. Whoops, I did exactly what I told you guys not to do. I got too much burnt umber in it, so I'm going to have to do something a little bit different. Way too much burnt umber. Let's see, I'll go back to my parchment. Where's my parchment? Because I'm not wanting to spend the time to mix up the other. We'll just work with that. So we're in parchment, a little bit of touch of white on my scruffy to give it some interest. And you see how when the brush is damp, it doesn't cover as well. So but one thing that the scruffy does is it gives it texture, a gritty texture. And in my other tutorial I flicked on some darker colors to give it more texture, which we can do fly specking. It can get messy, the fly specking. And the blue's still a little bit wet, so I'm picking it up. Just work with it a little bit. I'm touching in the raw umber just to give it a little bit of down here, make it a little darker. Hopefully you can see, that's in the camera. Just work with it a little bit. You can let it dry a little bit and get over here. So adding a little bit of raw umber and yellow ochre or oxide gives it a little more interest in colors. Now I'm trying to think of my shoreline and how I want that to look. I might want the ocean to come down a little bit more here, so I'll have to bring in some ocean color, or I could just leave it like that and be content with it, and maybe add let's see, we're going to play here a little bit with some ocean color and bring it kind of in. Still too wet to do that, but we can kind of smooth out some edges here. And if you want there to be a little touch of like froth, I'm dipping my scruffy in. It's a little damp, so I'm dipping it in white. Sorry, half the time I don't finish my sentences. Now this is also just a option, but sometimes they get a little frothy there on the shoreline. So we've got that all painted in, the sand, and you could do some flicking with a fly specking, also they call it. I do it a lot with a toothbrush, which I prefer, but you can do it with the fan brush, and let's see if I can get this done for you. Do it right without making a huge mess. This is very messy, so you would usually want to protect the area around or make sure you get pretty close. I am dipping my fan brush in water, and then I'm loading it with a bit of burnt umber. And you see how watery that is? You got to be very careful. You don't want it too watery because then it makes big splats. But if it's not watery enough, it just doesn't work. So I'm going to start off really careful. I'm going to use my palette knife, and I'm going to kind of flick gently some of the burnt umber. I don't know if you can see. Oh, see, that's why you don't want it too wet. I just had a big drip, but very gently flick, and then, and I got some up in my water, but I can blend those out in a minute. That's why the toothbrush I find so much easier to control, so that's why I prefer it. And I'm looking around for a rag that I didn't get my paper towels. Oh, there it is. One moment. And then all I do is dot it, and it just pulls it right up. I just touch it, pulls it right up. And if it makes too big of a spot, you can go back over that when it dries. This I can go just kind of rub them out, and they just kind of blend into the blue, and it's not a big deal. And if it bothers you to have those little specks in there, just go over it with blue. And that is it for that part. I'm going to let this all dry, and then I will paint the palm trees on it. I almost forgot. I was going to show you how to do those little white caps, or whatever they call them, there on the edge. Now, as I said before, I'm not exactly the greatest at this, so I'm using the scruffy brush, and I've got one corner dipped and tapped into the white paint. And let me see, we'll put one right here. Just kind of, I go like that. That might be too large of an area. But then you come back in with your fan brush, and you load up the blue. I've got the true blue in it. I've got quite a bit of water, and I might get a little bit of white paint so into my fan brush and just work it back and forth. And what you do is you kind of go like this, and you kind of make little curves up with it and give those little, the indication of water coming up. And you see how it just has a start there, and underneath the color is more of the Calypso sky, or maybe that's the Jamaican Sea, we'll find out. But we'll just kind of put some, I got to reload it on my palette, on the palette. I still have the blue and white in my fan brush, and I just dipped a little bit into, if you want to see it, Calypso sky, and then I just kind of work my brush, and then I'm just going to kind of come across it like this and kind of fade out that start point of that wave coming up. One thing about making mistakes, you always find a million ways to fix them. So I kind of muffed up, because that fan brush is so wide, the edge of my shoreline, which I'll just come in with a little tap of white and just kind of fix that. Put a little more froth there, and that works for that. Okay, now we'll let that part dry, and I will do the palm trees. So now we're ready to paint in our palm trees. Now you can visit my other YouTube video or blog post on painting the palm trees, and you can see that not every time do I do it exactly alike. This time I think the trunk on, this is going to be the date palm over here, will be done a little differently. I am going to use the burnt umber. Here's my palette again. I'm dipping my corner in the burnt umber, and this is the parchment or the lighter sand color that I used for the sand. This isn't the one I mixed, but it's close. So now I'm going to go in, now that I have the brush double loaded, and I'm going to start at the bottom. And I'm basically going to do almost an S stroke. I had to reload my brush, so I start here on the chisel edge. It's kind of leaning down. You don't have to. If I had a better angle, I'm coming from behind the camera. So I touch it, I go down slightly, down, cross, and then down. And that is a little bit different than I did on my prior date palm post, but it shows you how, let me see, I'm going to go to this point, and this is going to be a real narrow point. So as I go up the trunk, I will be making it narrower, and like I said, I'm not exact, and I kind of missed my point there, didn't I? I would have been better having a line, but that's okay. This will blend in. The top is going to be, like, some of it's going to be under the fronds of the palm tree. And I'm just going on and make sure I have the trunk done. So there's the trunk. Now I will get the greens on my palette. I haven't loaded them yet, so I'll be right back and show you the greens. Okay, I'm back, and I have the two greens. This is the lighter green. This is actually called cut grass, but if you can find it, I prefer fresh foliage, and this is thicket. Thicket is one of my favorite dark greens in the plaid folk art line. So I'm going to just double load my number 12 flat brush, like I always do for my one strokes items, and get it nice and full. And I'm going to do the fronds. I don't know if you can see these little dots, but I kind of pre-drew in where I wanted my fronds to be. So I'll just kind of go right through the center up to that, and then I'm going to go right through the center for that. And I always lead with the lighter color, follow with the darker color. And see, this will go right up to that line. I got that a little dark, I mean thick, not dark, but thick, but that's okay. We'll work with it. And I keep reloading my brush, make sure I have a good chisel edge, not too much paint on my brush. Sometimes I tend to get too much. So here we go. Now we're going to do, I'm going to kind of do it mostly on the back edge, but I'm going to flick fronds I let it run low on paint, and then I come back and reload. You notice it's flowing a little easier than it did in my other tutorial, and that's because I'm on a painted surface and not a paper surface. Now on this one, I tend to, you see how the fronds would be going downward? The back ones you wouldn't see. I might do little short ones because it's further away from the eye, but mostly I have the fronds going down, and then I have some little short ones there. And the fronds might be a little short. Sometimes you can go more towards the front or towards that direction. Like this one will go downward and not outward from the center stem. And I'm getting going along all the fronds. This one again will be going more downward. Now on my other one I showed it with a little bit with the fan brush. And always have your palette, not your palette, but your canvas at an angle that is comfortable for you. This is not a comfortable angle for me, but like I said before, I have to work around my camera. Somehow I've got to get it set up where it's above me and not next to me. And I just come in, try to keep them narrower. And if you get too much paint in your brush, you can rinse it out and start again if your chisel edge is kind of going away. A lot of times that's because you got so much paint up almost towards the ferrule that it prevents it from having a chisel edge. Okay, I am going to rinse my brush a little bit. I wipe it and then reload the paint onto my brush, double load it with the light green and the dark green. And then I'm going to do some fronds going down. See, I got too much light green on there. I need to watch what I'm doing. And since this frond is facing downwards, you have the spikes, I guess you call them, excuse me, painting down. You kind of clean up the center vein. And there you have your palm tree. Now this one can kind of go out more this way. It's kind of narrow there. And look at it if it needs to be fixed. This is bugging me right here, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I guess I could do some little short fronds on that one. I said I wasn't going to fix it and I lied. I am going to try to fix it. All right. There is that palm. Actually, this one probably should have been narrower because it's farther away, but practice makes perfect. Never is one exactly the same. Now I'm going to set myself up or give myself some register marks or area marks that helps me kind of keep my palm into a size I want. So I will go do that and I will come back. Now let's work on the sago palm. If you can see the lines, I have drawn the trunk from the small to large, and then the little marks to mark where I should put these stems for the palm fronds. Now I'm going to do the same as I did with the other trunk. I'm going to use burnt umber in my brush. It's a little dry. Let me get some. And well, this I might use the raw sienna a little bit. Nope, I got too much water in my brush now. Let me go back and do that again. I'm getting the parchment and then the little yellow oxide, the raw umber on my palette has dried and I'm too lazy to go get more, but this will work just fine. Just put a little bit of that yellow, let's see, what is it? Yellow oxide, yeah, I didn't have the... All right, I'm still going on here. I added a little bit of, just a touch of yellow oxide to the parchment just to give it a little bit more, a different shade than the other one. It's, my palette's drying. I've been away from this for a minute, so I need to really work a little tiny touch of water into it. And I will start at the small end again, as I did in my other palm tree tutorial. And I'm just going to make a little wiggle stroke. Work my paint in again, little wiggle stroke. And this is where it helps to have these lines along the side to kind of keep me from either going too large too fast or not fast enough. Guidelines are good for me. A lot of people don't need them. And you just keep making these strokes, adding a little bit of paint to your brush as you need it. I try to get low enough on here that the dark really shows as I layer. If I didn't start low enough, like here I start just basically very much at the bottom of the prior stroke, then I wouldn't have enough contrast. Now I'll do this a little bit faster, as I'm not real concerned about neatness. Let me see if I can do this without having to reload. Nope, I get too much dark in it, so I'll reload just the lighter color and do that again. Now you see right there, that needs to be filled in because it wasn't far enough over, but that's okay. It's easy to fix. Just keep going. And one last one down here. Now I will also do, I'm just going to dry wipe my brush out, and I'm going to get just a touch of the parchment. I guess I can show you. Parchment, and I'm just going to kind of blend a little bit of the burnt umber in it, and we're going to kind of shadow right there at the base of the tree. And we'll shadow at the base of this tree. Not a lot, and if you feel it's too much, you can come back in with the sand color and fix it. Now I'm going to go back into my greens. I have the lighter green, which is cut grass or fresh foliage if you have it, and the thicket. Double load my number 12 brush, and I'm going to make some of these fronds. I got that over top of the trunk. I can come back in and fix that trunk, but I'm just going up to my dots, kind of curving as I go. So there I have my, I'm trying to think, I'm looking at my former painting. And I got a little bit of water on my brush because it was a little too thick. So I'm going to start making the fronds. Again, I'm leading with the lighter color, and I want to make sure I start at that point. Lead with the lighter and drag the darker behind. Now I'll do this one. It's way over here. If you feel like they need to be bigger, just make them bigger. Just press a little harder. Now that one got too wide. Never are two exactly alike. And if it helps, look at a photograph of a palm. And this one down here. And one last one. Nope, not enough paint. It drug on that. It's Still dragging more paint. I think I need to get a little bit of water in my brush, just a little. You don't want to get it too drippy. Oh, I still have one there. I didn't get. I might want that one a little bit longer. It's gonna. Oh, well, that was a disaster. I got that too thick. So I'll just go like this. It could be going off the edge. And if you want to try to fix right here where I got that frond too thick, you can leave it. It probably wouldn't even be noticed by most. But if you want to fix it, I am getting out some of my darker blue. I'm putting some on my brush, working it into my brush, and since that had a little bit of white streakiness in it on that. Now this is called negative painting, what I'm going to show you right now. Sometimes it helps to fix. I've really got that worked in there, and I'm just going to go over top of that, and you just work it till you like what we've done. Normally I would wait till I have that green had dried, but just because I'm in a hurry here to get this done. And you can add more dark later if you want, but it kind of narrows that green with the background color. Now that one fronds just didn't get opaque. I don't like the way they turned out, so I'm just going to go back over them. They dried a little bit, so there, that one's better. And you see these are kind of didn't get full opacity on there, so I'm just going to go back over them as well. And there you have your sago palm. There. I like that. And if you want to add some little grass down here, are we in the camera? We should be. Give it some texture. You could add flowers if you like. You can have a little turtle coming down that way, and just step back and look at it. This tree is still bugging me, but without having to go over, I could just go over it with the sky again and redo all of that, but for today, I'm not going to worry about it. Now you see where the fronds were kind of over top. I will just get that color on the tip of my corner of my brush. Just get it a little bit, and then I'll just go over that a little, just touch it so it looks like those fronds are coming from the top and not over the top. So I'm just looking at it and seeing if there's anything I want to fix. It looks okay. You could add some seagulls up there like I did in my basic beach painting, or we could just call it good. I think I'm missing a frond here. It looks a little thin, but you could add or subtract as you see fit. And that is how you paint a tropical beach scene. Add a couple of little lounge chairs, Adirondack chairs or beach chairs, and you've got it made.